Brother George.
Hello.
We're back. It has been 6 months since we
wow.
last spoke. Or I think we'd met 7 or 8 months ago, and this was actually, funnily enough, in a sauna in our apartment building back in the Dubai Marina. I remember walking in, I was like, who is this ridiculously jacked individual? And then I was like, I'd seen you before on YouTube before, which is not on your channel. Maybe I'd seen you with Mike Thurston or some other, maybe you were taking a class and it was just a filthy workout. So then I was like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. And got chatting. I think I'd followed you on Instagram already at that point, but how are you finding it back in Dubai? You'd left for a bit. I know you went traveling a bit. How is the travels and then coming back to Dubai?
Yeah, man, good. Travels were around, went to Spain quite a bit, went back to the UK and then Bali. So traveled UK, Spain, Bali. I think that's it, yeah.
Yeah, and then are you going to maybe look at making Dubai more of the base? I know you've got some stuff set up here, but what would you see? I like freedom. I think you like freedom as well of that movement. So what would you think of Dubai in terms of where you'd spend some time each year?
Yeah, I've got a place locked down in Bali where I rent every month. And now the idea is to have a place in Dubai as well on lockdown. I'm just sick of coming here and spending ridiculous amount of money on rent when I was paying for my mum to be in Bali. So my mum's in Bali at the minute. So I was paying for her to be there, paying rent in Bali, my own place, and then rent here. So I'm just like, wow, I need to just lock down something for maybe 6 months to a year in Dubai. I want to be here anyway because my business is here. This is why I'm here at the moment, sorting some things out. But I love it. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you got a good network here as well, good people you can train with, people who you can train, that sort of a thing. So that's obviously one of the things I'd notice a lot on your Instagram is like this, you do absolute savage workouts.
Yeah.
Like you probably train, from the people I would follow, you probably train harder than the kind of, probably most people I'd see, but I'm interested in your training progression in terms of how you've gotten to the way you train now, because I would say you've probably followed something of a progression where maybe you got into the gym, got in that newbie phase, you were more into the bodybuilding side, and then now you've kind of moved into more, you do a lot of strength work, but you're obviously doing in more kind of cross training and stuff like that as well. How did young George get started in the gym? Like what age were you? How did the sort of progression come in the gym from when you started up to now?
Yeah, well, back in the day before I started training, it was football, athletics, things like that. I was a decent runner, pretty strong, but never really had the size. Well, actually, no, take that back. Let's go again. So I was into football and then I got asked to go into an academy team. Then I got dropped. So the first thing they said was I wasn't strong enough. Started lifting the gym. My dad got a set of dumbbells, which was like at 14. So I started training early. My goal was like, you know what? They're not going to tell me that I can't train like that. I'll be strong. So my goal was just to be jacked, and it happened pretty quick. Just training every day in the garage, whether it was hot, cold, every single day I would grind it out, and I then became pretty strong on the pitch. I was the guy who would push everyone around. I would dominate the field, but then I got injured. I kept getting injured, packed that in, and then just continued to pursue getting strong and getting jacked, really.
Gotcha. So then when did this, so this is up from maybe 14 to sort of what age when you were kind of starting to really take it on then and say, right, I'm taking this really serious now?
It was like, I had decent genetics. I have good genetics. And I noticed that from when I started to train, how much size I put on. Don't get me wrong. I was dedicated. I was disciplined every day. I'd be eating. My nutrition was on point. The training would be hard. So 17, I started to get serious. So I went into a bodybuilding gym where it was just a hardcore iron, no messing around. You got Creed on, my favorite band ever, blasting. So that's when I got introduced to more of the bodybuilding scene, hardcore training, where I love that environment. Those are the types of gyms I love. I love the hardcore backstreet gyms, blasting the rock music, absolute relentless. So yeah, the love for training was kind of an escape from reality, to just fall in, lock in for that hour and just completely annihilate my body. So it was an anchor for my life, really, training as it is for many. And I noticed that. And it was a case of I would push myself a little bit too far back in the day in bodybuilding, because we've realized now that overtraining is a thing. And I was someone who overtrained, and it actually had a negative effect on my growth. But I still battle with that now, overtraining. It's something that I still struggle with, and I have difficulty pulling back on the volume, on the amount of days I'm training, but I am getting better and I am learning. But when I was 17, I got introduced to the owner of the gym, and then he just said, "You ever thought about competing?" I was like, maybe. I didn't train legs at that point. So then I started to smash my legs, and I ended up, after like a year, winning some decent shows, Mr. UK, Mr. Northwest, like loads of local shows, Mr. Bolton like 3 times. And I came like a bit of a local icon, to be honest. I kind of was. I was the guy who they thought I was going to like compete on the Olympia stage. That was the goal. And I really believed that if I continued and I didn't get injured, because I got injured, I'd be on there without a doubt. The people who I was competing against now are like pros and competing like on the Olympia.
For big tournaments, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking at them now, I'm like, wow, I could have been there. But it is what it is. That wasn't my path. And when I got injured, it was like a 5-year stint of just battling some serious like identity issues, going from just training your ass off for a few years and then getting injured. That goal disappeared, and I fought pretty hard about that for a long time, but it definitely made me stronger, and I wouldn't change a thing now. But that's why when people do talk about injuries, I have a lot to offer them in terms of clients. I can relate a lot, but if you do stick to it and you do recovery, ice baths are good, and deep tissues, also doing different type of exercises, essential in your recovery. So I learned about my body a lot. Like I really went into just discovering what worked and what didn't work in terms of getting back to 100%. I'd say I'm pretty much 100% now, but my goals have changed. I'm not interested really in becoming the best possible bodybuilder. I would say potentially I would maybe compete one day in bodybuilding again. But when I was injured, I couldn't really lift heavy upper body. So I went into more like running, more conditioning work, and then the CrossFit, the Olympic lifting and stuff like that I've just started now. So it's putting that focus, continuing to try and, let's just say, have some sort of release.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you end up going a little bit crazy, going off the rails, as I did many times before. Because if your life is solely training in the gym, it's difficult to not self-destruct, I would say.
Interesting. I can see how that would have shaped you a lot in terms of that environment, because I can even picture a gym like that in kind of like, I would have went to a gym near Manchester with one of my cousins out in Denton and East Manchester, and very much that old school like Dorian Yates kind of style gym where even you're looking at the machines and it's like some guys just welded this. And it's like very in like British bodybuilding gyms, old school styles, the machines are unique, the setup's unique, the guys are hardcore. You can see that probably suited you a lot. Maybe cultivate that mindset a bit more.
It was perfect, mate. It was like when I see people train now, I'm just like, that's not. It's more about the drugs now rather than the hardcore training. It's more about what are people taking to get that advantage rather than hard training in the gym, just becoming an absolute savage.
I get you. And with that, so kind of seeing within the mindset there that you like to go really, really hard at whatever it is that you're doing. You go all out with your training, with your business, which we'll talk about, and how successful Physique Academy is. But with talking about that in terms of having that all-in mindset and how that could potentially, if that's not put into the right pursuit, and also you don't have the right things to do surrounding that, where you have a bit more variety in your life, mean, could you talk a bit more to that in terms of like, let's say people going off the rails? Is that something you've seen a lot with people who you know have competed? Have you seen it with yourself? And kind of what would you do for someone like that who might be prone to going off the rails, so to speak?
Yeah.
What's kind of helpful for someone like that with that mindset?
It's a big thing. If you look into it with athletes, professional athletes, they really struggle to come away from training and competing if they've got injured. It's quite a big thing. It's a big deal for people to deal with that. You hear a lot of people who are suicidal, depressed, go into drugs, alcohol. And I did go into drugs and alcohol when I got injured because I just had this energy and this drive and this ambition to become a bodybuilder. And don't get me wrong, it's not the worst thing to go through. It's definitely not. I don't want to come across as a victim. I never would be. I really do hate people who are victims and who talk like that. But it's probably because maybe I was a victim at one point. I felt really sorry for myself and I thought my life was over. And I just turned to drugs, alcohol, self-loathing, feeling like I was a loser. I was a has-been. People looked at me different. I was once this guy who everyone thought was going to be like this like athlete or this fitness guy. And yeah, I am now, but I lost everything. Do you know what I mean? So I lost all the muscle, lost all the drive, and I lost the confidence as well.
Interesting. I mean, was part of this, were you already posting on social media at this point? There was somewhat of it. There was a following there.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, was that sort of, you had this identity built up, let's say, people looking at you primarily in your locality, but then also on Instagram, more people see you. And I'm sure as well, a number of years ago, if you're talking about that, you know, let's say 18, 19, 20, that sort of time, huge organic reach, I would have said. I'd say you've been very kind of, you know, known in the UK and that sort of scene. So was it that you had this identity built up and then you're like, well, fuck, am I this guy? Kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's like when you're at the top, everything's good, but when you know, maybe when you're not winning, let's say you're not winning at something, people change. People change the way they look at you, the way they speak about you. And that was a blessing in disguise because I can really relate with people, and people are fucking hard on others, man. People can say some horrible shit, and you've got to be really careful what you let in. And I think that's where I built up my mindset to just not give a fuck. I was always the one in school as well who was like at the back of the class, always like failing my grades, and like in my family as well, I was the one who people thought was never going to make it. So I was battling with that, but I had this, and I always have had this kind of like fire inside of me of not giving up, always pushing, working hard on what I want to do. Not in school, because I didn't enjoy it, but in sports, you build up that mental resilience, don't you? Of getting pushed off the ball, you get up, you attack, you don't give up. So I was always that guy who was someone who would never give up, no matter what. But because I was injured for so long, I began to think I was going to give up. But luckily, I didn't. But the drugs, the alcohol, the weed just masked the pain for so many years. So I always used to turn to that, which for a long time it was hard to come away from. If something happened, it would be drugs, alcohol, and just self-loathing, really.
Yeah. And then what sort of pulled you out of that after that period?
It was a slow transition, mate. It was just looking at myself for what's actually happened and what I am, and stop being a victim and stop being a little bitch, essentially. Like, there's so many people worse off than me, and it's like first world problems. It's pathetic, really, sometimes when you think about how we can just get into this negative mindset of feeling like it's the end of the world when it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like, I went traveling as well. So when I completely lost everything, I was like, all right, I need to get away. I need to learn a lot about myself. I need to see the world and appreciate things a hell of a lot more and see life for what it is, essentially.
This is at age sort of...
This was age 20.
Age 20, okay.
Yeah.
So you were already quite a big personality in that space. I mean, winning shows at that age is pretty insane, or you could have been winning those at 19, 18 even.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fast progression. I mean, I started training at 14 as well. I still, to this day, still have noodle arms, you know, they just won't
You're
grow.
not looking too bad, man.
Well, cheers, man. I need to get into Physique Academy. But we have, but yeah, like for you to have that sort of progression in 4 or 5 years is pretty
It was
nuts.
wild. It was wild, yeah.
It was wild. So, but then when you came back from that, was that a quick social media hiatus as well while you were traveling? Maybe get out of that, because like you're saying, people say horrible shit, particularly online. They will say horrible shit because there's less. They don't have to directly, let's say, look at the expression of your face when they say something to you. They probably won't say something to people in person, but there's no real risk attached to saying something online. So people are a lot more carefree with what they'll actually say. Did you take a break from social media then at that time? And when you came back, was it like, okay, let's fucking go. I'm gonna build this thing back up and I'm gonna show people.
Yeah, man. I have a love-hate relationship with social media, bro. To be honest, I hate posting. I hate it. Like, I couldn't post for, let's say, 2 years properly.
Wow.
The shit I was posting was just personal stuff, nothing to do with fitness. Like whether it's Christmas or a birthday, something like that. Nothing really to do with fitness. And I feel like for me it's difficult to post, man, because I just feel it's very fake, and I try and come across as real as possible, as I do, but I just don't like that fluffy shit. Even like with conversations now, it's like I don't like talking about bullshit. I just like talking about real stuff. Let's just get straight to the point. Do you know what I mean? Like,
okay, so when you came back, so this sort of leads us on to when you got out of that style of training. I think that there is sort of a distinction as well between bodybuilding training and what you do now from a mental side, in terms of how you feel after a session like you do when you're just flattened after it. There is something about that where it sort of flushes out the body. You feel incredible. Don't get me wrong, you feel that way after a really tough bodybuilding session as well. I'm not saying you can't, but I think there is something inherently different to it, where it is something anaerobic as well. You were just binned after it. So when did the progression kind of come into the new style of training? Did you find that, is that more almost from a mental side of things, that helps you feel better, that helps you think better and that sort of thing? I'm interested in how that sort of came about.
Yeah, I first got back into it when I was traveling. I used to go on long runs, headphones on. At the time, I was going through some stuff at home as well with family and things. So it was that mental clarity that you'd get. Music on, just clear mind, getting out in the open. I remember I used to do quite a lot of running in Australia because it's really amazing views. So I would just, go for a run, clear the mind. And sometimes I'd be like running, crying. Just like, wow. I've got a lot of pain going on here that I really haven't been dealing with. Do you know what I mean? So then I started to get that release that I wasn't really getting from training, but I feel like you get it more so from cardio. If like people are watching here, if you do like a really intense long cardio session, I feel like you get a hell of a lot more out of it in terms of mental clarity, rather than just going in and smashing arms. Don't get me wrong, hitting the guns is cool, but you just don't get that high. You don't get that buzz. And I chase that clear mind, and I only really get that from high heart rate stuff. Yes, you can get your heart rate high training in the gym, weights, but it's not like a steady pace of just continuous sweat.
Yeah. I get that exactly. I mean, even yesterday, I was like, for some reason yesterday I was just in a bit of a funk, didn't really feel too great. I trained twice yesterday. So I lift in the morning, I did jiu-jitsu in the evening. I felt, it was jiu-jitsu where afterwards I felt leveled out, and I was like, this is fantastic. Like and it fully got me out of that. Kind of said it wasn't, lifting weights just doesn't really do that as such. You don't feel flushed out after doing incline bench for 3 sets of 8, man. It just doesn't seem to hit the spot as much. But even when you, it's great to hit the upper chest as well, like we're saying. But yeah, so that's from primarily. It seems not necessarily primarily, but a big component of that is how you feel mentally when you do that.
Yeah.
So were you coaching clients at this point? Were you starting to come up with your own methodology? Where even now, you're obviously, I think what's very impressive about the metabolic stuff you do is that you're not a like skinny thin guy who's, let's say, you know, that you would associate with someone who's doing long distance running and this sort of thing. You're obviously carrying a lot of size as well, and you're still able to do that to a very good extent. So is this sort of codifying a new training methodology in your head where you were seeing how to sort of get the best out of both worlds as well? Were you training clients? Were you kind of building up this different methodology, you know, at this point as well?
I've been training clients since I was 17. So I started personal training in a commercial gym from 17. So when it's very young, that essentially training clients at that age. Looking back now, why would like a 35-year-old man like look at me at 17 and want to train with me? Like, what type of real knowledge have I got? But the knowledge was from the results I had from my physique, which is very important. I'm all about results, essentially, with training clients, and our business and our philosophy is all about getting those results, because that's what people pay for at the end of the day, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, emotional. They want some sort of results to improve themselves in any way, shape or form. So when I was training clients, I would build up my communication skills as well. But in terms of like the cardio based stuff, it's from a young age knowing that this conditioning has got to, like, I never wanted to be a bodybuilder where I wouldn't be able to like walk up the stairs or anything like that. I would have gone down the classic route, which is still now these days enormous. Big. And it's like, you could do erg work, you could do a lot of conditioning, but running, even for me now, I'm not the best runner long distance. I'm good at maybe like 1K intervals or 400, but it has its pros and cons. Like on the ergs and maybe other barbell work, conditioning work, more like CrossFit vibes, I'm great at that. But I want to look like I do. Like it comes with a price at the end of the day. Like, you're not going to be amazing at running half a marathon in a fast time. Do you know what I mean? But everyone to their own. I've built up that mindset of wanting to look like a bodybuilder and also have that condition. I think you can have best of both worlds in terms of you can look extremely jacked, and you can also be very, very fit, and that's what I aim for. Yeah.
Get you. So we're coming back. You come back from traveling. You're still retraining clients. You come back in home.
I stopped.
But you stopped while you were traveling.
I stopped. Yeah. Yeah. There's some weird things that went on when I was going through that dark time. Some weird things where I kind of like stopped work pretty much altogether. And I was like, I knew I needed to go traveling and I had some money saved up. And then I was just like, yeah, you know what? I need to stop training because I didn't have the mental capacity and energy to give. Like, if you're training a client and you're feeling like you're not giving them what they need because you're completely exhausted mentally, I just don't believe in that. Do you know what I mean? So I pulled away, stopped coaching altogether, went traveling, and then came back and started to build up the business.
Gotcha. I guess as well, being coaching people, there is obviously you're focusing on the physical side of things, but there is an element of that where you're a part-time therapist too. So maybe if you were feeling like that, you're kind of like, well, look, am I gonna be able to give this client what they need when I need to kind of focus on myself a bit more to get myself into a position where I feel kind of okay doing that again and kind of providing that support, because they're going to be unloading a lot of their personal stuff onto you as well and that sort of a thing. So
I need to work on my own shit first. Like, how can I help anyone out unless you're mentally stable? And I wasn't stable, man. So I was just like, this is not good. I feel like a fraud. And I felt like a lot of the time when I was trying to help them, well, not even a lot of the time, most of the time when I'm trying to help a client, I was helping myself as well with what I was saying.
I get you. I get you. There is a phenomenon, I forget the name of it, but it's basically where a therapist is using the audience as his therapist. So it's almost, and I forget that there's another effect. It's another term I forget, but where you'll give other people better advice than you will give yourself. So I'll often find this. Yeah.
That's me. No, that is me. That's me. I've been there for years doing that, and I still will do it.
Yeah, I find this if I'm telling someone here who maybe runs a service business, I'm talking to them about team structure and what I know about hiring people and that sort of a thing. I'm like, damn, this is some really good advice. I'm actually, so there's certain elements of that I could do better, even from what I'm saying. I'm not following that to the letter. But yeah, so when you came back, it was
ground zero.
Was ground zero. Were the clients in person? Were you getting people online as well? How did this sort of begin to, how did it begin to snowball from there?
Yeah, I saw a guy online just before I went traveling, and he had an online coaching company, and I was like, you know what, pure online training, that sounds good. So I got in at the right time. Even if you start online training now, you're still in at the right time. Like, people think it's saturated, but to be honest, people are not good at what they do, mate. They can't get results. Maybe they're good at jumping on a camera and talking about all things nutrition training, but you look at the results and they're shite. They actually are. So there's room for good coaches. There really is. But I started from ground zero again, came back. I was basically building out my framework for online when I was away. So I had a plan. Came back, no clients, started from rock bottom. Back into the gym, and the goal was just to go all in. Like, I knew that when I was coming back, I was like, I can't keep on living like I was living. Like, I was backpacking, and the reason why I came back is because I had no money. But I planned to potentially set up in Australia, and that was the goal. But I was just like, nah, I'm not ready for that. I want to come back to the UK and start from there. And then when I build myself up in my business, then I can start to travel again with some decent cash. So I didn't want to, like, people are scared to move back in with the parents. Do you know what I mean? They're scared, like, they think it's the worst thing in the world. Like, majority of people now live with their parents until like the late 30s, I would say.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing. It's like, drop your fucking ego, bro. Like, if you've got to go back to square one, you got to fucking do it.
Yeah. I saw a stat recently in the UK, 60% of people under the age of 35 live with their folks, which is, I think, down to a housing crisis and stuff like that as well. But it's not, you're in the majority, literally, by doing that, by having to drop and go back and build from scratch.
Let's just cut the bullshit. Do you know what I mean? Like, who really cares? Like, that's the problem with social media. You're comparing yourself to someone's, stage 13 with your stage 1. So you just have to be real, and I would rather not try and be a little bit of a fake. Do you know what I mean? Fake it till you make it. And I get that within reason. You've got to pretend or become this character of who you want to be. But if you need to go back and start again, then you do it. And at that time as well, you didn't know, I actually had a supplement company alongside that. Yeah, Armstrong Nutrition, which I will be bringing back alongside the business. So that was a failure, and also the personal training. So it was just a combination between just starting again and not worrying about that. How many businesses fail? Do you know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ, this is normal shit. But people have that battle within themselves, and they think, oh my God, they've failed. It's all over.
Interesting. When you began, so you were...
So I was selling supplements. I was doing one-to-one coaching in a gym.
Okay, perfect. And this is around age 20?
This was like 19, 20.
Okay. Yeah. And then when you came back from traveling, you started to build it up again.
This was 21, yeah.
21, okay, I see. So then you kind of pushed...
Started so young. People who would listen to this would be like, oh my God, that's crazy. But I had people around me who were kind of also setting up businesses and doing very well. So I was like, why not start now? I wasn't ready. I was influenced by others. I don't think I was mentally ready to build a business. No way, shape or form. I was ready to do what I wanted to do. I was just influenced by peers doing really well and thought, fuck, like they're making really good money. They've got a nice car. Like I'm dead broke. Driving my granddad's fucking Fiat Punto falling apart. I remember, this is a good story. I remember I had a green Fiat Punto, mate, and I was driving. I pulled up at one of my old mates' businesses, and he had a Rolls Royce, and I pulled up, and the exhaust fell off.
Oh, mate.
And everyone looked at me, and I was just like, I just took a step back, and sat back in the car, and I went, you know what? That's so good for me. That's fucking amazing. And I just looked at them all, and I just started laughing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to be confident within knowing where you're going. And I had that inner belief that no matter what anyone said, no matter what happened, I would just keep on going. So those little things that have happened like that have humbled me, have really shaped who I am today. Do you know what I mean?
This is interesting. Yeah, I think the juxtaposition there is quite funny, but you've been through some very tough times then, when, like you were saying, when you were younger, like mentally, these sorts of things. So maybe at this point, it probably had helped that it sort of hardened you at this point, because you were like, okay, well, I've been through worse shit than this, so I'll probably, like, odds are I'll make it out through this again. Like, this is nowhere near as bad as other things that I've faced. So this is a walk in the park. And probably at that time, maybe some of the confidence you'd had, were you starting to build up momentum as well online again? You were maybe things which would have affected you when you were younger. You were like, nah, I'm fucking powering through this again. I've seen this before. It's okay. You know, you were probably building up more the online presence. People already knew you in the area, and you was a lot of the confidence seeing, no, I've got momentum. I'm maybe not there yet, but I've got momentum, and I know I can make something out of this.
Yeah, man. It's that mental resilience and toughness that you build up from whether sports or whether you're family problems or whatever it is. You've got to use those as a superpower. Do you know what I mean? I'm glad how my life planned out. Every single thing that happened, and I've had the perspective to channel it into something that is a growth factor for my mental resilience and toughness.
I get you. I'm interested in this because I hear this debate between experienced coaches, where some people think that it's you're talking about results all the time. It's your main North Star, let's say, with the coaching business. And I remember as well, back in the sauna chats, like you were always on about results. You weren't necessarily on about
me. It's not about me.
Yeah, it's not about optics or how you look on social media and that thing. But what is your take on, because you get some pretty sick results if you follow the Physique Academy page on Instagram as well, which people should. It's pretty, like, some of the results are pretty insane. What is your kind of thought on that debate between getting people really good results online versus in person, and how to sort of be almost as much of an in-person coach as possible when being with someone online? Do you think that if you do it right, you can get as good results or even better results if you're an online coach than in person?
Well, I spent 15,000 hours on the gym floor training and training clients and being one-to-one with them. So I wanted to try and figure out a way how I could connect the dots between getting this, well, not the exact experience, but a very similar one-to-one personalized experience where the client would feel heard, appreciated, and understood. And you could build up such a good connection with them, but also you were there for them and kept them so goddamn accountable, like I was when I'm working with a one-to-one client. So I took all that experience and all that knowledge and tried to develop the best possible product, and still am and will continue to always develop the product where that client experience is very one-to-one and personalized. That's how you get the results. And I wasn't bothered about me. I had to completely disattach myself from, this is not about you, George. This is about your clients and getting them where they need to be. Like, you've always fucking been able to get yourself in shape, whether you've lost it, whether you've been injured, whether you come back. You know how to do it, but how can you put all your tools that you've learned from ups and downs, resilience, and put it into your clients? So, and I think that's the problem now is you've got influencers, you've got these coaches, but you never really hear them talk about the clients. They're always talking about themselves. And like now, and for a very long time, people don't come to work with me. You can't work with me. You come to work with the Physique Academy brand. It's a brand. So quality service that you get if you were going to work with a beginner coach or someone who's been with the brand for a number of years, or myself. That's the goal.
I get you. I think potentially it could even be better in some ways being online, in that what the internet enables is that it enables everyone to access the best. So if you were looking at, let's say, a local musician who would have been playing 30 years ago, they're now probably giving piano lessons to uninterested kids somewhere because everyone else can listen to, I don't know, Travis Scott or someone like that. Everyone can listen to what is purported to be the best around. So if you're, let's say, the best coach with the advent of the internet, you can access theoretically everyone. Everyone can see your stuff. Not that everyone can train with Physique Academy, in that there's obviously you're gonna have to hire more coaches and this sort of a thing. It's not infinite, but that's potentially a case where people see the best around. They get access to that through the internet, so more people could work with you, people who with the results that you guys have gotten, rather than maybe someone local who hasn't actually gotten those results before, but they can give the in-person experience.
That's exactly it, mate. Like when I was coaching one-to-one on the gym floor, I knew I had something that I felt obligated to build what I'm building. I knew I could get the results. I knew, I don't know. I think now looking back, it's more emotional intelligence of understanding people. That's kind of what separates a good coach from a great coach and getting those results. It's that emotional intelligence that not a lot of people really have. So when I build out the framework and the blueprint for my brand and all the methods to how we get those results, that's come from me. And also now influenced by other people who are working within the brand. Do you know what I mean? If you think that something is really good to introduce within the product or the service, then we'll do it. So I've basically took all my knowledge and put it out there within our coaching company and blueprint and philosophy. And it's like, okay, so I can get the results. How hard is it to get a coach who's only been coaching for 6 months the same level of results? And I've managed to do it with massive success.
Interesting. So is it mainly that the moat within a business like yours is results? Do you think if people are looking online and they want to hire a coach, they want to have a transformation, do you think that the main thing they're going to look at, it's not going to be fancy marketing tactics as such, but is it just you for a long time posting result after result after result, which is a lot of what your page, but also the Physique Academy page is like? Would you say that is the main moat, is just that the long-term sickening results is what has enabled the brand to grow to as big as it is? Are there other moats or other kind of distinguishing factors that people maybe won't know? Like, what has enabled you to grow this enormous kind of coaching business where a lot of people, they're unable to replicate that success?
Yeah, well, we only work with men, and growing up in a team environment, being a captain of a football team for 10 years and being that sort of individual, you develop certain skills to motivate another man. And I've formed I've formed a brotherhood. That's what I say. And people say, oh, how is that even a thing? Can you even do that? And it's like, yes, you can. And in society now, we are struggling for real male role models. Do you know what I mean? And that's what these individuals who are looking at our page are after. They're desperate for it, mate. They're crying out for help. They need coaches. They need accountability. They need someone to just open up to. And it's about mental health. So we have 2 therapists on board. who work with our clients who are struggling, and we've had massive success with it.
Wow.
Massive success. It's been amazing. I was on the call yesterday with two of my therapists, and just some of the stories and some of the breakthroughs that we have. We're saving lives, mate. We're saving lives, seriously, and that's what it's all about. It's essentially, I've developed a product which men need. They need it. They have to have it because that's what they're crying out for. It's the most important thing, really, because it doesn't just help them in the physical aspects of life. It's also their emotional, and also now financial and relationships. Like people in toxic relationships, they'll come to us, they'll get fit, they'll get jacked, they start working on themselves. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna leave those old friends behind. I'm not about that anymore. I'm not gonna be going out every single weekend on the sesh. They're leveling up, mate. So the product's there, and men are in a desperate need for it. So a lot of them will come on board just because they see the results. But then when they get on a call with my coaches and we talk about the program, they're like, wow, this is cool. This is different.
Interesting. Why do you think that crisis has occurred? We know that we're in a mental health crisis in the Western world. It's there, particularly in the English speaking world. We see it a lot. You've lived in Spain. I've lived in Spain. It's a very social culture. People are way more opened up. We're a bit more. It leads to a lot of isolation, I think, sometimes within our cultures. Why do you think that crisis has become as big as it is and so prevalent in men?
Oh, well, the food we eat, social media, like in the UK, the housing market, inflation. I think every little thing has a part to play in it. But I also think that we've become a little bit soft, haven't we? I really do believe there's going to be a big transition from just people wanting to be working hard, like be known as someone who's a hard worker, regardless of what the job is, essentially. I really appreciate people who just work hard and don't complain about it. They know there's a job to get done and they do it. And I think there's not many male role models, essentially fathers, who have good advice, mate. They can't really give good advice because maybe they've never had it. The world's changed a hell of a lot. And yeah, I think people are really struggling to fully understand who they are and what they want to do, and they're comparing themselves on social media, and it's not been good for them, mate. They think they can make a quick buck, they can sign up to a course, and it's going to be easy, whether it's crypto, whether it's, don't know,
agency,
whatever it is, mate.
Yeah.
Like they think, oh yeah, that's going to be easy, I'm going to make a quick buck. And I just don't believe in that. It's not going to teach you anything by just trying to earn money instantly. That's not good, I think, for society.
I think so too. Yeah, I think they're, like we're saying, with older role models, yeah, what worked in their generation isn't necessarily what's going to work for us. It's far from it. It's a far different landscape. You're way better off now working for a smaller company, with, let's say, sub 100 headcount, than you are in a big company. There's something called embedded growth obligation, which is in big organizations, where it basically says that people lower down the hierarchy within a company proliferate at a way higher rate than people up the hierarchy. So let's say, even if we take a university example, because it's the best way to look at it, if you have a PhD, he wants to train 20 PhDs beneath him, who also want to train 20 PhDs beneath them. So a generation later, you're at 400. So it proliferates very quickly, and then they want to get up the chain, but it's clogged at that point. So if you're going into a massive company, it's clogged. Let's say if someone's working with Physique Academy or someone's working within my company, the level for upward mobility is so much greater. So whereas a parent of ours, their generation, they're saying, oh, he's working for these, it's a bit risky, isn't it? Where's the pension? Where's this? Where's that? But they don't realize that everyone needs to take on a level of risk these days to sort of have the things that they want. The optimal size of the firm is shrinking. Many things are happening like that. But I'm very interested by this because the growth that you guys have had compared to so many other coaching companies I saw on your Instagram recently, the team has grown to 40 people, which is quite remarkable in many respects. surely that mental health crisis, not that it's something that you're sort of, it's not like something that you were benefiting from in this sort of nefarious way or whatever you'd say, but it's something that you were serving and mitigating.
Yeah.
Has that, I'm sure that's helped the growth. I mean, what have you seen change, I suppose, in the service and in the last while? Are you noticing that you're having to do a lot more, the transformation, you're having to work on a lot more on the elements outside of the physical element? And that sort of thing. How would you say that has changed in your time? Are you even noticing it with, what your coaches are kind of telling you with, how you are sort of marshalling the team? Are you noticing that almost therapy element that you are having to provide and that your coaches are having to provide, has that just grown massively in the last while?
Yeah, I've always known that this is going to unfold. This is the way forward to bring in more mental health specialists within a coaching company. Because I just look at social media and the fitness industry, and a lot of them are just talking about bigger biceps, a bigger incline chest, a bigger upper chest. And really that's not going to motivate someone, is it? Do you know what I mean? Why are you going to get your ass off the couch when you're 20 plus stone, eating Cheetos every night, feeling sorry for yourself, to get an upper chest? Nah, it's not. It's understanding what's going on behind closed doors. What have they been through? What's holding them back? The battles, the insecurities, the demons they've been facing. Why are they in that position right now? Do you know what I mean? It's not about, you're not going to motivate someone just by telling them to get jacked. Mm-hmm. It's about what's going to come with that. Who are they going to become? What person are they going to turn into? How are they going to be able to then get their ass up and maybe work harder, provide for the family? There is a better life. There is a hell of a better life. But it's in small little stages and small little steps. It's not about the physical, because I've been in the best shape of my life on stage, done photo shoots, and I felt like shit. Felt a hollow hole inside, because people don't realize that it's not just about getting jacked. It's about unraveling what's holding people back. And that's the separator from us and other companies, that we actually give a fuck about someone's life. Yeah. What's actually going on in the relationships? Have they been through abuse? Are they in a toxic relationship? Have they never had any support growing up? Have they never had anyone to just say, listen, if you work hard, you can do all right, but you don't have to be a fucking CEO, an entrepreneur. There's nothing wrong with just having a good steady income, going on holiday once a year, having a good family. That's a fucking win, man.
It is a win. So in a way, the struggles you went through have actually put you in a very suitable position to where you can provide that support for other people, because you know what they're going through in many respects. Almost the pain that you went through, while horrible in a way, was beneficial in that it's probably helped you a lot with how you're able to coach people now, how the company is able to do that, how your coaches are able to do that.
Well, my younger brother was depressed, wasn't he, for 10 years? So that's one of the biggest factors. He got diagnosed with depression, anxiety at 14. So at a very young age, I had to man the fuck up and think, how am I going to help this guy out? He was suicidal every day, couldn't go to school, being sick at the school gates. He was someone who was extremely intelligent, an A-star student, but couldn't even go into school without being sick. We ended up finding out he was in the school toilets, sitting there at lunch. So I had a younger brother who was down and couldn't figure it out. Was he meant to figure it out? Who has even figured it out? So I was a support for him. Of course, I've got my parents, which did everything they could do to help him out. But I feel like this is the thing. Men need someone to look up to. Men need a brother who can pull them out of the shit.
How has that affected your philosophy from, with your brother and kind of that sort of played out, last year and that sort of thing? How has that affected your philosophy with coaching people? Your sort of, I suppose, passion for helping people with mental health struggles and stuff like that, it seems to have had a huge effect. And of course I can understand why, but you know, how would you sort of carry that with you and sort of use it to help the people that you sort of work with as well?
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. It is very hard. It's something that I'm gonna deal with for the rest of my life, and I'm still dealing with it. But it has given me more wood to the fire. I'm already a very highly motivated, driven, intense motherfucker. Do you know what I mean? I can be super, super intense at times, and that can also be a little bit of my downfall in terms of not being able to take time off, not being able to just slow down and just breathe and be present, which I've worked on a hell of a lot. But that whole journey from where he started off at when he was young to his death has just taught me so many lessons that are invaluable for my team, that I am obligated to express what I've learned, the little stories that have happened, let's say, it's different times of his life had different I've time mapped his life out many times, and I always will do. And I did it with him when he was alive, figuring out what actually triggered you to then go down this path. Whether it was when he was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, someone at school found out, and then they told someone, and then he thought he was a freak, he was a weirdo, he had mental problems. So that was one thing. And then another thing could have been at a party, he was sick. So he was sick at a party, everyone laughed at him. So that's another thing. It's like there's little things that have happened and happen with people that trigger an outcome, trigger you going down a different path. And if you're not careful, you can either take it as a positive or a negative. So that's what I did from his start of depression up until all the way until he committed suicide. So those little moments in time, I've critiqued and studied endlessly, time after time again. I'm like, okay, what can I learn from that? How can I then help my team out? How can I help the next man? So that's why when someone comes to me or my team, I can really help them out. Yet again, I'm also helping myself out as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's given me an advantage on competitors. Like when I hear another fitness person speak, they don't speak like me a lot of the time. And that's why I am successful, essentially, because I've experienced a lot of fucking pain and trauma with my brother and myself and men in general. I can give some decent advice to.
What would you say to someone listening to this now? Maybe they have a brother or they have a sibling or a cousin or even a friend who they may be worried about, who maybe they have depression, they have anxiety, or they could be going through a particularly rough patch. What would you say to that person in order to give, let's say, the best help possible to that person, or even to deal with it themselves? Because I'm sure, while that was obviously difficult for your brother, I'm sure it's very difficult for you, for your family as well, because you were obviously trying to look after him and this sort of thing. What would you say to people like that who are in a similar situation to sort of support them, or how they can best support, you know, the person that they may be worried about?
Yeah, I think people need a support network. And he had a support network, but I think he knew what he was doing. He used to pull away from everything, talking, communicating, whether I saw him. And he used to do like long walks at night, stupid o'clock. He used to do like out at 4 a.m. And that was another thing. Like he was a night walker because he didn't want to see anyone. So that's another thing in time that triggered him to be that person. Now he was an individual who never went out in the day. He went out at night. What's that going to do to your communication skills when you're not talking to anyone? What's that going to do to your circadian rhythm? Like, you're not sleeping properly, bro. That's not good for your fucking health. So it's a case. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. Where are we up to then now? Talking about what advice would I give? What I would try and do when he was in a better place, he was always in the gym. He was eating better and he was getting plenty of sleep, but getting up and getting some sunlight. He was connecting with myself or my mother. My mother was his biggest rock. He had some sort of connection. And that's what it's about. You need to be connected to someone. Otherwise, what the fuck's the point? You have no one. Why would I be here? No one cares about me. And that's where we come in my business, because we do give a fuck, and I can build some sort of community and brotherhood where people feel like they're heard, but they also have a friend, have someone who actually cares about them, because a lot of people don't have anyone. So having connection, but also getting help. You can, if you're watching this video and right now, you can get help from my team. If you just shoot me a message, I can definitely sort that out. So it's a case of you've got to look after your physical health as well. Training in the gym, good nutrition, good sleep, sunlight, good habits. Stay away from the drugs, stay away from the alcohol. Don't like numb yourself. That's only going to make things worse. And try and just, if you've got someone, try and talk to them, and also just get help from a therapist. Like, I'll tell you what, one conversation, one interaction, one moment can really change the trajectory of your life. And that's happened with endless amounts of people on our program. Just a different perspective. Have you thought about it like this? Have you thought about it like that? And that's why I like traveling, seeing the world, Dubai, whether it is Bali, in some third world countries. You think, fuck, you know what? I probably need to appreciate life a hell of a lot more. And even just one conversation, or even just flying out somewhere. And like, if you had a child who was really struggling, it's like, okay, let's go to India. Let's go to Delhi and go and see what that's like. Wow, oh my God, like this is a completely different living, like standard of living, new life. I think that could really change a lot of people's perspectives on things.
Completely agree. So they're like, have it like reaching out to that person, like giving them help yourself, but also helping them get help from.
You've got to be selfless.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a lot of regrets, and I did a hell of a lot. But you've just got to check up on someone, because you just never know. You just never know what's going to happen the next day, or what they're going through. And to be honest, when I put out that my brother did commit suicide, I got a lot of messages from people who whose family committed suicide, their brother. And I remember I had an interaction with someone in Ibiza. I was on the sesh, and
the best time for good chats.
Yeah, I was on the sesh, and I was like, where was I now?
Blue Marlin or somewhere.
Ushuaia.
Okay.
I was at Ushuaia, and I knew this guy. And all of a sudden, he just decided to open up to me and said his brother jumped off a bridge. And I was like, sheesh. And then we just had this moment. And I was just looking in the eyes like, wow, he's been through the same thing. But he had a different perspective on it. He was embarrassed by it. And I just grabbed his hand and I just said, listen, bro, you can't be embarrassed by that type of shit. Never be embarrassed by that ever. Like, this is something that you should look at a little bit differently, by being ashamed of your brother committing suicide. And it really fucking hurt me. That it really did hurt me, because I'm not ashamed. Like, I talk about my little brother every day. I talk about him as much as I can do, because he was a blessing in my life. Do you know what I mean? I love him to bits, and I wish he was here. And it's just trying to change that stigma. Do you know what I mean? And even that, when I heard that, I was like, you know what? This is why I have to do what I've got to do, because thinking like that and being ashamed isn't good. It's toxic, man. And that's why I'm highly motivated to speak on these types of topics.
It's great that you do.
Yeah.
I mean, shame is, I think, on the scale, it's the lowest vibration human emotion.
Yeah,
Shame
it was horrible, mate.
It's a horrible emotion. I mean, I'm normally, actually, I haven't ever spoken about this, but because you were so open, I'm happy to share. I've started going to therapy since earlier this year.
Nice.
So I think I was texted you there, or maybe it was on something I'd sent you before, where I was just starting to feel almost half bipolar or something as the business started to grow and as the undulations and things started to grow. It's sometimes it's not good for you. If you're, I mean, yeah. I would say if you're prone to feeling very up and down, probably don't start a business in a way. But I always felt very level-headed and very calm, not because I've got life figured out, but just because I'm lucky it's the way my brain is. But then as things started to grow and you've got a huge payroll and stuff like that, you're like, oh shit, like there's a lot here. But it's been incredible for going back through, let's say, things you've experienced, and you look at thought patterns that you have and you don't feel shame at them anymore. And when they crop up again, you're like, oh, that's just that thing. That's, let's say you felt like you had no control when you were a child because maybe you had a very strict parent or parents. And then you might feel, let's say you might be in a social situation and you might be dominating the group saying, no, we're going here, we're doing this. You might be a bit of what do you call it? Like an authoritarian. But then you're able to look at that and be like, oh, that's just this thing. And then you have a decision to make. Do you want to act like this or do you not? Because you're able to identify the way you're acting. And I've been able to identify so many patterns like that, but also different things that have happened when I was younger and things like that. And it's been amazing. So I would highly recommend anyone to go to therapy, or even if they're looking at doing coaching, in terms of changing their physique. Well, if you guys have that as a massive, part of what you do, then that's a pretty good indication to work with, Physique Academy, someone like yourselves.
I do hate though when people label themselves as things. That was a big thing for me, and it always is a big thing. And if I'm having a conversation with someone, whether it's someone in a coffee shop, whoever it is, and they start opening up to me saying, "Oh, I've got ADHD, I've got bipolar, I've got all these," I'm just like, "Shut the fuck up, bro! Like, literally, shut up! Like, you don't know what that can do to you. That can really hold you down." And especially with my brother, I saw a hell of a lot of that, trying to basically put him in a box. And I just hate it. I get it. Like, you can have illnesses, mental illnesses, but you've really got to be careful, because I think when you believe it, it just makes it a hell of a lot worse, and it manifests into something a hell of a lot bigger. So, like, I've had people come on my team and say certain things. I'm like, that's not true. That's your gift, bro. You've got ADHD, good. Like what? Oh, is something? Are you really something wrong with you? Are you okay? Like, do you think like it's the end of the world that doctors said you've got ADHD? It's fucking good, mate. You work extremely hard. You get shit done. You're a blessing on my team, mate. Keep going.
Incredible. Well, that brings us to a somewhat flagrant topic where some people can take that. I completely agree with that, by the way. But some people can take that to the nth degree, where I'd be interested to hear your take when certain people go all the way over to the other side, where they don't want any labels being put on things, and they say things like depression isn't real. And they say that's the main one.
I get it.
Depression isn't real.
I get it.
What do you make of a statement like that?
I get it. I can see someone's perspective on it, because it's all in your head, isn't it, at the end of the day? Do you know what I mean? 1 minute you can be fucking happy as anything, and the next minute you're suicidal. It's like what you said before. I feel like sometimes I've got bipolar. It's just the aim of the game. That's just what we do. Like, it's stress. How much stress can you actually tolerate? If people literally took a 360 look into what I think about and talk about to my friends, they think I'm absolutely crazy. But I am crazy.
It's a superpower.
It's a superpower, man. Yeah.
So that's quite interesting.
But getting therapy is good. Like, that's what I'm trying to normalize. I wouldn't even do you know, like, therapy? The word therapy isn't really a very positive word, I would say. And like, when people talk about maybe like in other, not in the UK, because we're a little bit further behind than America. We have a lot of American clients, and like, therapy to them is a little bit more normalized. But people from the UK, therapy, like a deer in headlights. Like, oh my God, what? I'm gonna have to talk about my emotions. It's like, bro, come on, chill out, man. You're just having a chat with someone, and it's something not to be scared about. But people, like, yet again, people are so scared of themselves and what's going in. But what's going on inside. But they have one conversation that just neutralizes every single thing. So if anyone's watching this, just book in. Like, if you can book in, you'll be blown away. One session sometimes, but not even sometimes, one session that we give to our clients, that could be it, man. They think, fuck, I'm a little bit embarrassed. Like, I've been thinking about this for 20 years and you've just given me a different perspective. Oh, like, they're more embarrassed, mate, because they've made up this massive, huge crisis. And it's normal. Like, people are going through the same shit, but it seems like their problem, no one understands. Their breakup, their trauma, no one understands what they've been through. But if you actually knew what people are actually going through truly, it's usually a lot worse than the majority of what people are going through.
Completely second that. Definitely book in. Definitely give it a go. I mean, talk to me then. Another thing you're doing to sort of help within this is the Armstrong Foundation, of course, which I think I saw on LinkedIn. You posted about that as well.
Yeah, man.
Could you talk to me about that, the impetus for that, how that's been since you started the Armstrong Foundation?
Yeah, man. I've got big plans for it, essentially. So we offer free support. You get 5 free sessions in my Physique Academy program.
Amazing.
With therapists. You get 5 free sessions. But the Armstrong Foundation is essentially just opening up and having that free space to talk on all things mental health, whatever you're going through in life. I'm going to fund it through raising money, through different challenges like burpee challenges, or what I'm doing as well is I'm doing Physique Academy branded clothing.
Incredible.
Fitness clothing. So like a certain percentage will go to the foundation and fund that. And also on the side of that, I'm doing my own fitness brand as well, which is called Armstrong, which will be funding that foundation as well. So it's essentially you book in for a call on Zoom and you can talk with one of my therapists for free and you get 5 free sessions. Because at the end of the day, mate, we need it. The world needs it. And I'm obligated to do it. It's what, 2% of each transaction. It's nothing at the end of the day. And I know other businesses will jump onto it. And I just think, like, I was having a conversation the other day about the NHS, and you've got people working in the NHS really seriously, high demanding, stressful fucking environments, A&E nurses, A&E doctors, and they don't even get support. I'm helping out people in that role right now with the same support, which blows my mind to think, fuck, like, what is going on, essentially.
Pretty incredible. How do you see it? How do you see it sort of growing? And do you have a goal, let's say, where you want to help X amount of men, let's say, by a certain time frame? I don't know. Is it that explicit in terms of the goals you would have with it? Is it more something that you want to be, like, yes, this is now a part of Physique Academy forever and always, kind of a thing? Is it something that will bolster the academy, the results they're able to get for people, the transformation psychologically they're able to make as well?
Oh yeah, it's a 360 holistic approach, isn't it? Because essentially when someone's fat, overweight, it's nothing to do with usually they're being lazy. It's to do with whether they've actually got a purpose in life and what's going on behind the scenes. So you can look at a guy coming out of McDonald's who's 20 plus stone, can't even walk, but people will point and laugh and say, oh, you're a fat fuck, when he could have been an athlete, but could have broke his leg, then turned to drugs, then he's fat. But he just can't get out of that hole because he's continuing to live in the past. So when you fully understand that majority of our problems, not even majority, it's all to do with psychological, emotional problems, then you start to think, fuck, you know what? This is how you really get those long-lasting changes with your clients and completely change their identity. Like, people can do a 12-week program, but have you really completely delved deeper and figured out how you're going to maintain those results? And how you're going to maintain them is understanding that we've got to unravel this person entirely and figure out what's going to keep them on board, whether it's you got to be fit and jacked for your kids, because no longer you can be the fat dad anymore. Do you know what I mean? You got to be a provider, protector for your family. And instead of just thinking, oh, I need to grow my biceps, it's thinking, no, you need to be someone who your kids will look up to. And that's what you're going to really hit them hard. What is actually motivating an individual to...
It's a lot deeper.
Yeah.
It's a lot deeper. So for a transformation like that, I guess how that can sometimes conflict with marketing, let's say, where people want quick results, they want to get somewhere in a short period of time, but it just doesn't work that way, especially when we're talking about a transformation like that one there, where someone has to change who they are in relation to their family. It can sometimes conflict, but I mean, how long would you say, let's say we take that exact person, let's say they're 20 stone. So what is that? They're 280 pounds. So that's quite large. What's that? 135 kg or something like that. And they're trying to make a transformation, get themselves down to 100 kg. You have to do a lot on the psychological side. They have a couple of kids, let's say, and do that. I mean, is that transformation years? What does someone have to overcome within that transformation? What are the mini transformations which need to occur throughout the journey? Sounds like it's a big job.
Oh, it's an overwhelming job for a lot of people. It's scary. It's scary, isn't it, for an individual? Usually as well, the bigger they are, the harder it is. Do you know what I mean? It's like a junkie, like how malnourished an individual is and how skinny they are. And when you see them on the street, the further they are into it, the harder it is to pull them back. Same with the physical. The bigger they are, usually the more problems they've been through. And the more they'll think they're never going to be able to get back to it. That hole, that long, dark hole, that tunnel, there's no more light. There's just a little bit of flicker at the end. So that's how you got to think about it. This is a tough cookie to crack, but that's why everything that I set up, it's to really smash down those walls, mate. With the style of coaching we do, we don't bullshit, mate. Do you know what I mean? We're hardcore, and you have to be like that. Like, are you going to continue to live like you do and not be an inspiration to your kids? How would you best approach it? You've got to figure out what that person, how you're going to make that person tick. Do you know what I mean? And understand a person. So you ask the right questions, essentially, and unravel why they are in that position and what's going to pull them out of it. And then from there, you can really make some shifts. But like, I've had some really difficult conversations with people, really difficult, been on the phone, shouting, saying you're just going to throw this opportunity away. Like, you're just after a quick fix. You don't want it. Arguing with clients, like, we'll kick people off the program all the time. Like, I don't want the money. I don't want to waste their time because they're not ready, and they're wasting my coach's energy. So it's like, people are like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to leave. I'm like, no, you're not, mate. You're not. What gives me the confidence that you can actually leave this program and maintain this? You're nowhere near it. You're just jumping off. You're quitting when it's getting a little bit tough, isn't it? So, like, I think that's the difference. Like, I'm not afraid to say what I think. And I think that separates you from 99% of the coaches. So when someone comes on board, they won't get, well, I try to make sure that everything I do, the coaches follow the same philosophy, because I know that's what these individuals need. And it's all relative to the client and the individual and how we speak to them and how we communicate with them. Some more so harder, straight to the point. Some a little bit lighter, showing more empathy and compassion. But it's just being the real deal, man. And we have a lot of training. We have a lot of talks with my coaches to make sure that they deliver the type of service that the client needs. And it's tough for the coaches to have those difficult conversations. It really is tough, but that's what separates yourself from the rest, and you earn that respect when you do tell someone the truth.
I get you. I mean, a transformation like that isn't going to occur in a 12-week boot camp. It's just templatized or whatever.
Some can take years. People are not willing to do it. Like, we'll have people on the phone. It's like, are you willing to sacrifice a year and a half on this program? Like, what? I thought it was going to be 6 weeks. It's like, no, mate. You're nowhere near.
Yeah, it's taken you 15 years of abusing your body to get to this point. So it's going to take a bit of time to unravel that as well.
That's the issue, mate, isn't it? 15 years of neglect to 12 weeks of just dieting. It's just like, nah, mate, you're not ready. So we have a strict policy on that. We don't take people on board who are going to waste our time. I'd rather them go and spend the money on the pub, mate.
Yeah.
When they're ready, they're ready. Yeah. So
makes sense. What would you say, what tells you that someone is ready? Are there core traits that you would see across clients who do make an incredible transformation, and then are there core traits across people who fall off?
Most of them don't complain.
Okay.
They don't whine, don't complain. I hate that shit. Like, come on, man. You've got to do it. Like, we've all been through it. So, like, I've built my body back up to where it is today the same way that I have to do it. Do you know what I mean? But it's not easy. It's not easy, but there's a better life out there. When you start to stack those wins and start to build that momentum, then you'll start to feel good about yourself. But like I was talking about this the other day, like a big thing for, not even a big thing, one of the biggest thing and factors and motivators are women. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
We want a nice lady by our side, don't we? But men settle for so much less than what they can truly get and truly are capable of getting. They just settle for the lowest of the pack. And no offense to women, but some of the women's habits that some of these guys are going to are really bad. Just very negative type of person. The habits, they're eating shit food. They're drinking too much alcohol, drugs. That individual. But people will come on board with us. They will have the similar habits, but when they change and they change their appearance, their mindset, their habits, they go from getting a 2 to a 7. And that's the reality of it. Like, I've seen guys on the program, I'm like, oh my God, she's hot, man. Like, you were literally such a fatty, like 6 months ago. You would never even approach that individual. And now, like, she's coming to you. I'm like, damn, this is sick. And they can't believe it. They're like, oh my God, I've got this chick. I'm like, yeah, man, this is what it's all about. So there is a better life out there, but it's going to be very, very difficult. Like, I always struggle with my mental health. I'm always open about it. Like, the past couple of days, I've been tough, and I even put a video out the other day, and it got a lot of negative traction. And I was like, shit, you know what? I needed that. I didn't say the right thing. It wasn't aligned with what I really wanted to come across like.
What was the video?
It was to do with women and how I think that a lot of the time men distract themselves with aimless, meaningless sex and just scrolling on different dating websites. And I came across not really the best in terms of it felt like people who were watching it, the women, it felt like I was blaming women when I definitely wasn't at all in the slightest. I was blaming the lack of self-discipline that men have and just thinking with a dick all the time. And they think that, shagging all these different girls is cool when it's not.
I think it's such a huge waste of time that you can fall into, especially if you're in a city like Dubai or London or these sorts of cities where you do have, there's no shortage of beautiful women here from all different countries as well. So you can fall into that very easily. It's such a time suck where you have things which compound, like your business, like your physique. These things will be with you until the end of time, but you're foregoing those to chase something that's fleeting. Yeah. I think, especially it's something I do struggle with because I've been traveling around a lot this year. So you're not in one place to where you can have like one stable relationship because you're in a new place every couple of months. So it's a little bit more difficult, but it is such a time suck
Like
when you're doing it that way.
Women are men's biggest, greatest asset as well, though, at the same time, and also a massive anchor. Like my brother has a wife. He's known her for 10 plus years. He's just had a gorgeous baby girl, and like she's his rock. She's his everything. So that's why the video, I didn't really explain myself correctly. If you're chasing a woman who is going to bring you up and bring out the best in you, great. But I'm saying don't go around just trying to shag everything, because that's going to drain your energy and waste out a lot of time. And just the same as on the flip side, women and men.
Yeah. How do you find from there dating while traveling? Because it inherently puts you into more of the time suck kind of side of things, where it's not like you're in somewhere for a long period of time. You've trying to build up this great relationship with one person. So like I said, I've struggled with it this year from bouncing around to different places, and I'm still committed to that lifestyle, which has led to difficult conversations at different places where I've been, where I'm like, look, I'm going on to a new place here. Like I'm committed to this lifestyle above all. So yeah, like I'm saying, probably from a personal perspective, something that I haven't figured out yet while traveling. So how have you found that, you know, this year, the last while, since you've been kind of doing a bit more traveling?
I find it difficult, mate. I find it pretty difficult to not go out there and try and get those hookups. Like, this is why I'm talking about it, because it's a difficult thing not to do, to go on different dating websites. And like, it's a case of, am I looking for someone right now? I'm not going out of my way to look for someone, but if someone came into my life who was right, then great. But I just don't want to waste anyone's time, because I know how important that is. I don't want to fuck anyone around, because I think that if you fuck people around, it comes back to you in karma. And the reason why I try and be like this now is because I've done that in the past, where I have had different girls, not all together, but maybe one girl to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And I wasn't really being true to who I was. And I think this is quite a big thing in society.
Especially with the following you have. I'm sure I would say it probably changes to a point where you probably get the odd girl at least sliding in on you as well, you know, on Instagram and that sort of thing. So it's sort of right there.
It's difficult, man. It's difficult when you're very self-aware and you analyze every single fucking thing. You're like, wow, George, stop overthinking. Just go with the flow and just chill out. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. If I meet someone, great.
Has your social media following made that more difficult or less difficult, would you say?
I think it's easier to attract women, isn't it? But the right women, essentially. That's the hardest thing.
Especially here.
I would rather meet someone in person. Yeah, because for me, it's the connection. It's the mind I'm fascinated by. I like to talk on a certain level, an emotional level, that I'm just not interested in certain females who don't give me that.
I get you.
Yeah.
I would say in your case, it would probably need to be someone who is very much into the things you're into. Probably someone who trains really hard as well. Someone where you can,
or maybe the opposite,
or maybe the opposite. But there you're able to sort of support each other's goals. Where if you're with someone and they're, let's say, drinking a lot and going out all the time and putting themselves in situations that you don't want to be in, that's obviously going to create a lot of discord and annoyance with you two. So it would probably have to be someone who is into similar things, where you can ascend together.
Yeah.
More so.
Yeah.
For sure. Which could be a little bit difficult to find. Potentially, yeah. I'm just going with the flow, man. No, I'm not overthinking shit anymore. If I meet someone, if I like someone, great, cool. Let's talk, let's go out, let's have fun.
but also it's just, if I feel a certain way, if they feel a certain way, I hope we're honest with each other. I think a lot of guys now, they're just so flaky and they can't tell someone straight to the point. And I think I've upset a lot of women in the past before from just being a little bitch, not telling them how I actually feel. And I've wasted their time and I've really fucked with their heads. So that's why I don't really want to do that shit anymore, because it takes away from my energy knowing that I'm not being true to myself.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I definitely could completely relate to that.
It lowers my confidence. It makes me feel like a shit person, man. Do you know what I mean?
It does. It definitely does, because you're not living truthfully, I suppose, in that way, where you're not like fully open with your intentions or kind of where the kind of wave you're on with your life and your direction. And yeah.
And at the same time, like going out and having fun, like, you know, you're at a party or whatever, and you meet someone and maybe you do sleep with them on the first night. Big deal. Cool. If the energy transaction is the same and you know what you're here for, then that's it. It's all good, bro. Like, let loose.
Makes sense. So brings us on to your travel plans in a way. So you were in Bali, you were in Ibiza, you're now back in Dubai. You seem to really like Bali as well. Some of the sessions you were doing there as well looked absolutely filthy, especially in that humidity as well. I'm sure quite difficult.
Bali's sick, mate. Bali, Dubai, it's completely different, but I feel like you kind of get the best of both worlds, man. I'm fucking grateful. Anyone who's watching this, like, I'm so blessed to be able to do what I do and travel. Of course, I've worked extremely hard and I always will do. But Bali's more of a zen environment, chilled, a bit more laid back. It's not the hustle and bustle, no skyscrapers. A little bit more grounded. You got all your spiritual gurus out there.
Love that.
But then also Dubai is a place where you can rock and roll and get focused and meet a lot of successful people, as you do in Bali anyway.
Interesting. What would you say is your ideal split, let's say, in terms of a year? Where would you split up the year in places that you would like to stay?
I still got a bit of a thing for like Spain. Still going to be spending a bit of time over there because it's close to the UK and I can fly my mum out and see her and see some friends. But I would say, well, now it's rainy season in Bali. Really rainy.
I thought you were going to say the UK there. I was like,
oh,
well,
no, I don't spend time in the UK anymore. Not at the moment. Maybe in the future, but not at the moment. I've lived there all my life, mate. So if I can travel and if I can work anywhere else, why would I want to spend that much time in the UK? Of course, my family are there, but you've got to live your life at the end of the day. And my goal is to be able to fly my family out wherever I am in the world. So I would say, like, now it would be Dubai for a few months, when the rainy season is in Bali, and then maybe back to Bali, I'd say Feb for a few months, and then wait till the summer, UK summer, head over to the UK, around Europe. Yeah.
Beautiful. Final question I have towards the end, and I think this is interesting because of the progression that you'd explained there. Let's say 20-year-old George is sitting in front of you and you had 3 bits of advice to give to him to live a better life, maybe expedite the process to be where you are today. What would you say to 20-year-old George?
One would definitely be chill the fuck out, man. Like you were saying before, just relax a little bit, like work extremely hard, but be more present in the moment. Don't take yourself too serious, and also just spend more time with the family, mate. Yeah, and if you want to be a little bit wild and you want to enjoy yourself, don't be too hard on yourself. Do you know what I mean? I feel like as a coach and as a leader, I'm so critical of myself, but now I've learned that with the ridiculous shit I've done in the past before, try not judge myself as much, because you only live once, and it's a case of like have some fucking fun, man, along the way. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So where can people find everything? So for your socials, for Physique Academy, for the Armstrong Foundation, where can people find you?
Yeah, I think more so on Instagram, Physique Academy. Page is doing really well. So yeah, hit me up on Physique Academy, watch what we're doing with the coaches, with the team, and what's going down with that. And also, yeah, you can check out the Armstrong Foundation as well on there. You can check out my social media, George Armstrong at Physique Academy. And also, I've been doing a few more YouTube videos, which is ongoing.
Would love to see more.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be posting one, I think, this week, and also filming. That's why I'm staying here as well, because Max, who does my content, is out here in Dubai. So I think I'm going to stay here for a month.
Brilliant.
Get crack-a-lacking on that.
Brilliant. But yeah, George Armstrong, thank you very much. Appreciate it, bro.
Thank you, brother.
And yeah, hopefully we'll get you on again soon.
Nice one.